So here's a wild thought. What if the key to shoring up American elections lies halfway across the world? In this explainer, we're going to dive into a pretty bold proposal that looks to the world's largest democracy, India, for a potential blueprint to, well, reboot the entire U.S. election system.
And really, this quote gets right to the heart of it all, doesn't it? When people trust the outcome of their elections, democracy just works. But, in recent years, that trust has been seriously shaken in the U.S.
All the constant debates, the controversies surrounding U.S. elections, they're a pretty clear sign that the system is under some immense pressure. The source we're looking at today argues that instead of just trying to patch up the old system, it might be time for a complete reboot. And this reboot is built on three core pillars.
Okay, so what's the very first step in this proposed reboot? Well, it's a pretty radical idea, to be honest. A single, universal ID for every single citizen, created for one purpose and one purpose only: voting.
To really get this idea, we've got to look at India's Aadhaar system. It's this unique ID number given to every resident, and it's used for pretty much everything, from opening a bank account to, yep, you guessed it, voting. The whole goal is to create a super simple, super secure way to prove you are who you say you are.
So what problems would a system like this actually solve? Well, for starters, it would seriously clean up the voter rolls, getting rid of outdated or duplicate registrations. Second, it would make it way easier for people to register to vote in the first place. And third, it would create this rock-solid link between each voter and their ballot, making fraud a whole lot harder to pull off.
But I know what you're thinking. What about privacy? That's kind of the elephant in the room here. The proposal tackles this head-on. It suggests a system with really strong safeguards built right in, maybe even restricting its use to just elections and official government stuff. The idea is to create a secure system without, creating some kind of big brother database.
Okay, so let's say we have this unique ID. But how does that actually work when you show up on Election Day? That's where the second pillar comes in, a universal voter ID.
Right now, if you look across the U.S., voter ID laws are this messy patchwork of different rules in different states. This proposal would just sweep all that away and replace it with a single national standard. The goal is to create a system that's simple, fair, and super easy for everyone to understand, no matter where you live.
So why do this? Well, the source argues that a national voter ID would seriously boost public confidence in elections. It creates a feeling of fairness and security. Plus, it would help prevent fraud and get rid of all the confusion caused by having 50 different sets of rules. But hang on, what about voter suppression? That's a huge concern anytime you talk about voter ID laws. The proposal has an answer for that. Make the government responsible for providing a free, easy-to-get voter ID to every single eligible citizen. The point is to make it as easy as possible for everyone to vote while still making sure the election is secure.
All right, so we've got a unique ID and a universal voter ID. But what about the actual voting machines themselves? That's the final piece of this puzzle, and let me tell you, it is a big one.
When you picture a voting machine, you probably think of a computer, right? Well, the Indian EVM is totally different. Think of it more like a super secure, single-purpose calculator. It's not connected to the internet, and it literally can't be programmed to do anything other than count votes. It's all about keeping things simple and secure.
I mean, we've all heard the horror stories about voting machines getting hacked. That's a major source of anxiety for a lot of people. The big fear is that if a machine is connected to the internet, it's just vulnerable to an attack from anywhere in the world.
But what if the machine just isn't connected to the internet at all? That's the whole idea behind these air-gapped machines. They're completely isolated from any network, so there's just no way for a hacker to get in from the outside. It's a really simple but incredibly powerful security measure.
So, what's it actually like to vote on one of these things? It's pretty cool. You make your selection on the screen, and then a little paper receipt prints out behind a glass window, showing you exactly who you voted for. You see it with your own eyes, so you know for a fact your vote was recorded correctly. Then, that little receipt drops into a locked box, creating a physical paper trail that can be audited later. It's really the best of both worlds, the speed of electronic voting with the tangible security of a paper ballot.
So, what are the big takeaways here? With this kind of system, you basically eliminate the risk of remote hacking. You get fast, super accurate results. You have a physical paper trail to back everything up. And you don't have to worry about confusing ballots or, hanging chads. It's a system that's just designed from the ground up to be simple, secure, and totally reliable.
So we've walked through the three pillars of this proposal: a unique ID, a universal voter ID, and these secure air-gapped voting machines. It's a really comprehensive plan, but it all comes down to one massive question. Could something like this ever actually happen in the United States?
Okay, let's be real for a second. This would be a monumental undertaking. You've got huge constitutional questions about the federal government's role versus the states' rights to run elections. The logistics of rolling out a brand new system nationwide would be absolutely staggering. And in today's political climate, getting everyone to agree on, well, anything is a real long shot.
But here's the thing. The goal isn't necessarily to just copy and paste India's system directly onto the US. It's more about looking at the principles behind it. Security, simplicity, and universal access, and figuring out if those core ideas can be adapted to fit the American system.
So, that's the question we're left with. Can the US learn from an example like India's and actually reboot its democracy? It's a huge question, with absolutely no easy answers. But as we think about the future, it's a conversation that's definitely worth having, because at the end of the day, the health of American democracy really depends on it.